people going to university to learn business, for me, is the most flawed concept in the world.
University, I had no GCSE qualifications, nothing. By the time I was that age, I was already a multi-millionaire.
Do you think all men should be able to fight and defend themselves?
Martial arts should be taught in schools. If you want to become the most well-known person in your niche, you need to create controversy.
What is the best piece of advice you could give me? Welcome to another episode of the podcast. Today we have an absolute mega guest, and it's Mr. Matt Fiddes. So Matt has the largest franchise of martial arts studios in the world with over 1,700. The business is worth over 120 million, and he was also formerly Michael Jackson's personal bodyguard and very close friend. Thank you for your time today. I'm really excited to get into this.
Thanks for having me on.
First thing I want to ask you is, how did you come about being Michael Jackson's bodyguard? Because that's super random.
Yeah, it's like a fairy tale story, isn't it? So I had, like you said, the most successful... Well, I have got the most successful chain of martial arts schools in the world. And then back then, you're talking like 97, 98, I had 5 martial arts school locations. And it blew up. It was huge. I was making £1.5 million a year profit, 18 years old. And that came to the attention of the UK national media. And I ended up on the front page of all the tabloids, broadsheets. And on the back of that, on all the TV stations, or the morning TV shows and evening TV shows there. Bully boy becomes millionaire, had no qualifications at school or anything. And that came to the attention of a guy called Uri Geller, who's world famous. He's a business tycoon, publisher, he's hugely successful. Probably more famous in the UK for bending spoons. You had like Tony Robbins of the Firewalk, and you got Uri Geller with the power of the mind and the bending metal or whatever it may be. And it just turned out his best mate was Michael Jackson. And Michael wanted to meet me, unbeknown to me, because he likes to study the greats, Michael did, and he wanted to connect with Bruce Lee's ex-wife and Bruce Lee's daughter, Shannon Lee, and I had connections there. And me and Uri Geller had this trust together, and in the middle of the night I had a phone call to come to his house. He said, I'll regret it for the rest of my life if I don't get there. And I get to his house, and Michael Jackson's in his living room, introduced himself to me, and it turns out he was a black belt already. His dad, Joseph Jackson, made all of Jackson 5 training martial arts. So we got on like a house on fire, and we became best friends for a good year or so. And then after that, I realised he was being ripped off by a lot of people, so I took over his whole bodyguard security operation. And yeah, the rest is history. I didn't charge him for it. It was non-transactional. I didn't need the money. And it worked well. I was good, close friends with him for 10 years.
What do you think is the biggest thing you learned from maybe Michael and being in that environment? Because like success leaves clues, no matter what maybe the media portrays of someone like that. You don't become that successful and do that well by chance. No,
and people misunderstand that about Michael Jackson. They think he's a bit of a clown or a weirdo and stuff. But like you said, you don't become the most famous man in the world. And actually, one of the last awards he got was from the Guinness Book of Records, the most famous person in the world. And he knew exactly what he was doing. He knew how to manipulate media, to create the mystery, to get people talking about him, and he thrived off it. He loved it. The guy was an absolute genius. And what I learned from him is stuff that we all read about, like Tony Robbins has been teaching for years, called modeling, where you study the people who you want to be like, and then you cut the shortcut. You have the shortcut to success. And Michael would openly say he would study James Brown, Fred Astaire, Charlie Chaplin, and he would take the best from these great performers and create his own dance and style from it. He wouldn't have it called the Michael Jackson dance. It would be him studying the greatest, and he'd always be doing that, like the Bruce Lee thing. So the reason he wanted to meet Bruce Lee's ex-wife and his daughter is he wanted to find out what made Bruce Lee tick all these years, and made it more relevant. Why are we still talking about Bruce Lee all these years on after his death? And Michael wanted to find out what was it about him that kept his legacy going, because he was into that. But if you could summarise the success principles of Michael, he set huge goals in his bedroom. On his mirror, he wrote, I want the biggest selling album of all time. I want to sell over 100 million records, because he wasn't happy with Off the Wall, and obviously that ended up being Thriller. It's still there to this day. And he would look at that every day, he'd visualise, and your network is your net worth. Who you hang around with is who you become. So my success really was not so much just hanging around with him. When you're Michael Jackson's best mate, everyone wants to be your mate. You got access to everyone. And when we got around a dinner table, we had Mohammed Al-Fayed there, the owner of Harrods in London, and the Ritz Hotel in Paris, multi-billionaire, and movie stars and pop stars. And when you're thrown into that world at 18, you're going to be different. What you're going to the way you're going to think, the way you're going to pick up, your mind's going to tick differently. And that's what happened to me.
With that and what you just said, I think gives people a lot of context, and also getting yourself in the right position, and also getting yourself attention at the beginning of things is important. What do you think is the biggest thing Michael did to like overcome obscurity to get more people to know who he is?
Michael was very good at keeping the mystery going. So whenever we would walk out before leaving a hotel, he would always say, Matt, don't forget, I want my life to be the biggest mystery on earth. Treat my fans with respect. They put me where I am. And yeah, well, I had to play like bad cops. So Mr. Jackson's got a meeting, we need to go. And he'd always put the face mask on. He learnt that from studying Howard Hughes. And keep the mystery going. They put sticky tape on his fingers, and the trousers that are too short, the white socks that everyone remembers, and the loafers, and sticky tape on his nose, which is just allergy tape because he wanted the media to write that his nose was falling off, and plaster himself with makeup, and it worked. It just worked. It's quite controversy. I mean, if you can compare it to today's times, I suppose you can look at like someone like Andrew Tate, who I would imagine says these controversial things on TikTok because he knows damn well it's going to go viral. I don't think he's a silly guy. I think he's very smart. And it goes, I know you might take it too far sometimes, but then Michael took it too far sometimes too. So when Michael manipulated the mainstream media to such an extent, so when he got on stage, not only did people want to hear his music, they couldn't wait until he turned around because they wanted to see what's he looking like nowadays, and there was a big part of that, and he knew it. He definitely knew that.
One of the things you said there was really interesting is I'm a big fan of John DeMartini, and I went to one of his events. So one of the things I learned from him, which is a really good exercise, is like traits of the greats, he calls it, is actually like find 3 people in every area of life that you want to focus on and like study them, take like what they do really well. And I think that's a really interesting exercise in terms of you start to see what makes people successful and really break that down.
Yeah, that's important. And having access to those people, I mean, when you sum up success, you just got to literally find someone that's doing what you want to do and copy them and make them better. It's as simple as that. And people kind of overcomplicate things sometimes. Just find someone out there who's already done it, made all the mistakes. Don't try and go through the school of hard knocks yourself. Like, it took me 27 years to build the biggest chain of martial arts schools in the world. If one of my franchises comes on board with me, they're going to achieve what I took years to achieve within 3 to 5 years because I've made all the mistakes for them. It's not that hard. Success leaves clues, like you said, and you just got to just jump on that bandwagon.
And a framework I think about a lot is that like they print money, they don't print time. So I'm constantly trying to find the next person who's ahead of me I can give money to get me forward faster, because people don't understand that they're losing more money not investing someone to help them get ahead because they know what you don't know and what you don't know even exists.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Well, when you summarize money, there's only so many Lamborghinis, Ferraris, mansions you can buy, holidays you can take, so many times you can go to the gym, and your kids have got to go to school, your friends are going to have to go to work. But what it does do, it buys you the freedom to do anything you want. I mean, another angle of my business, I run something called the Money Freedom Club, mf.club, and I just teach people because I believe money buys you freedom, buys you time. You can do anything you want on your own terms, spend as much time with your kids as you want to, travel the world, and not have to worry about money. People who worry about money are the ones who normally trade in time for money, like the one-to-one, like in your industry, but like one-to-one personal training. I've been there. I used to be a PT. I know what it's like, taking people around the lap, pull down, and the bicycle, and the next client comes an hour later, you're like, oh my God. And you get your protein drink in there, you got to go and do your own workout, you're thinking, oh, I've burnt out. You can only go so far with that. Your income's capped. It's unsociable hours. You got to master the one-to-many, and you got to master to have enough money coming in so you do what you want on your own terms. You're not put on this earth to just exist. You're here to live, and we got things around the wrong way sometimes, but people overcomplicate it.
I think that my opinion that society is ingrained to pigeonhole people into the system. People go to university, you get loads of student debt, you then come out, you get a shit 9-to-5 job where you make like 50 grand a year.
Not even a job you trained for.
Yeah, you're successful. You then get a mortgage, you've got more debt. You then got 2 kids and you're married, and you can then never get out. And I think that's a trap that a lot of people get stuck into, but they get sold that by society as like the dream. Yeah,
you get told by your grandparents. When I'm on stages, I always say, love your family, but don't take advice from them. Because your grandparents come from the industrial age, and they were just quite happy to have a roof over their head because they went through World War II with bombs coming down. And So they're going to say, well, my grandparents were like, get a trade, become an electrician, become a plumber. Stop throwing your legs in the air, Matthew. You're crazy. You're not going to make any money doing that. My mum, she was a lawyer. She's one of 14 children. They've all got university degrees and done very well for themselves. But a lot of them have studied, like you said, have come out about 28, 29 from these university degrees, and then try and get a job in what they train for and can. I've got these huge student loans they're still paying back now. By the time I was that age, I was already a multi-millionaire, you know, and you are conditioned to do this. And I know why the government do it, because it's a glorified baby system. The school system, 9 to 3:30, and then college after, and then university. That's okay if you want to be a doctor, lawyer, dentist, accountant. Got to do that. But if you want to make money, it's probably the worst thing you could ever do. Why the hell would you want to just live in one little box of a home and then pay it off and retire at 67 and then have a pension and then do some holidays with arthritis and you walk in stick because you haven't looked after your body and so on? That's not living. No, you need to do the opposite to what they try and ingrain on you, and then you're going to be okay. Get out of school as early as you can. And I got a lot of billionaire mates, right? And I got a lot, 7 or 8 of them. But literally, they've left school at 12. And they've missed. My children will not be going to school, secondary school. I think it's the worst thing ever. They're going to be exposed to drugs and alcohol and things they shouldn't be exposed to. So I'll be pulling them out and they'll be homeschooled and they'll be taught the way to go out there and succeed, you know, and make money. But the school system doesn't teach you how to make money. It doesn't teach you how to do anything. You have to stay healthy. Drawing dinosaurs and stuff, you know. I had parents even recently. I can rant on this for hours, but I won't. But I had the parents evening recently from my son Zach. It was an emergency parents evening. He's only 10, and they wanted me and my wife there. And my wife hates taking me to these things because I'm very outspoken. I hate school. I used to always hate school, but it's a waste of time.
Anti-establishment.
Can't stand it. Yeah, it's just messed up. Teacher, who's basically broke. All respect to her. She's broke, otherwise she wouldn't be doing this job. She don't really want to be here, does she? If she has the chance of being rich and going to sit on the beach and staying at home, she'll be there. She's broke. She's teaching my kid how to be rich, apparently. How the hell is that supposed to work? It's like having a swimming teacher who can't flip and swim. So she's got 2 big issues. First one is my son's handwriting's too big. That's the first one. The second one is when he goes to his computer, the times table challenge, he's too slow on working his 6 times 6 and 12 times 12 and whatever it may be. I just stared at her in disbelief. I said, we're in 2024. Give my son a calculator. That solves the times table issue because they're on your phones. They're everywhere. You can talk. Time he's 18. It's just, technology and AI is going to be unbelievable. There's no need for him to work out in his head anymore. And the handwriting thing, I can't write. I don't know if you know this.
I'm saying I'm dyslexic. My handwriting is terrible.
Yeah. So for me, it's like Egyptian.
I can't read my own notes sometimes.
Yeah. Literally, I can make out my own writing. No one else can because they thought I was right-handed, so I had to be left-handed, and I couldn't correct that. And my spelling's terrible. But I just have to sign my name, sign autographs. That's all I've had to do in my life. And when I come to hotels, then I just hand the paperwork to my wife. She fills it out, and I sign the bottom, and that's it. You know. And nowadays, it's even on iPads. You know, here in Dubai, everything's on iPads when I sign into hotels. It's great. I don't even have to do anything. So for my son, forget the flipping handwriting business. He ain't going to be doing that. Give him a keyboard. What are you doing? And he's devastated. He's in this parent series overhearing this conversation, and his confidence is killed. And confidence is everything. You know that. He comes out depressed, and I'm like, Zach, don't worry about it. You're not going to need any of this stuff. She's broke. She doesn't really want to be here. It's a job to her. Stands for just over broke. And we'll teach you the ways to get rich and just go through this motions because that's all you have to do. That's what I had to do for my school life. I couldn't wait to get out of there.
I think one of the biggest mistakes most people make in life is they're trying to learn something from someone who's never done the thing, which is why having people going to university to learn business for me is the most flawed concept in the world because you're learning from a professor who has no money.
Yeah.
And if they were really good at business, they'd have a really big business. So you're better off just going to go work for another entrepreneur if you want to learn about business, see how it all works, or just go and start your own thing.
Exactly. And you got to represent too what you want people to become. Like when you got a school teacher who sat there who's clearly overweight and then teaching my children about eating fruit, vegetables, exercise. I'm looking at the school teacher thinking, are you serious?
It's a hypocrite.
Yeah, you're not even leading an example for my children to look up to. So I think with your sector of personal trainers, the amount of people I'm sure you do see as well, personal trainers in gyms who are out of shape, who are giving advice. I'm thinking, how does this work? You're in better shape than the personal trainer. I mean, how the hell do you take an advice off this person? At least walk the talk, you know? That's the first thing. I'm not saying you need to be Arnold or like in the martial arts, you need to be able to do the side splits and kick, but at least represent what you want people to become. They need to be inspired to be like you.
And there's a saying like it, sometimes it's not what you know, it's what you can prove.
Yeah.
And like if you're in great shape and you're a trainer, like you don't need to say anything else because you clearly know something at that point, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
One of the things you said a minute ago was very interesting. You were making, what, 1.5 million profit? Was it 18?
18 years old, yeah, I went straight in there.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
Do you think, two questions, do you think that would be harder to do now? And did you have anyone mentor you or help you to do that? Because surely you didn't figure that on your own, I'm presuming.
Good question, yeah. So I was, my back was up against the wall. So my family were all completely against it. Get a trade, go to university. I had no GCSE qualifications, nothing. I just had this dream of teaching martial arts, and no one had done that before in the UK. So I moved away from a place called Swindon to North Devon because in the martial arts world, it's not seen as a good thing to open up on your instructor's territory. So I moved away to North Devon. I opened up in this little town, 10,000 people, a place called Braunton. I got a job at the local leisure centre as a lifeguard. It's the only qualification I had, that and my personal training certificate qualifications. And I was being paid £2.75 an hour. I moved into a bed sit, £30 a week, and it was traumatizing. I mean, I don't even want to go back and think about it, but I got evicted from 3 bed sits, all £30, £35 a week, because I couldn't afford to survive. Because down in Devon, when it comes to the winter time, you no longer need as a lifeguard anymore. And I kept on thinking, I'm only 16, I'm too young to start a business. I knew what I wanted to do. And in the end, my girlfriend at the time, she bought me a briefcase. So you've been talking about this business thing for so long, just get on with it. And it was like a symbolic thing. And I still messed around for 5 or 6 months before I opened up my first classes. And then I opened up my first classes, and it was just £3 a class and so forth. But the trouble is, when the sun's out, which is rare in England, but when it does happen, or when it's holiday time, you don't get paid. No one turns up. And just by chance, I'm a big believer in the law of attraction because I can't explain my life. It's been so mad and crazy, and the things that have happened definitely like manifest some of it. It's got to be true. I had a friend who went on a holiday to America, another martial artist, a guy called Lee. And Lee got back and he paged me. Back then, like, we were pages. Unless you had a lot of money, you had a mobile phone. He paged me, he said, "Can you call me urgently?" And I went to the red phone box near my bed sit, called him up. He said, "Matt, I've just come back from the States. You wouldn't believe what's going on out there. They're like 25 years ahead of us. You got multi-millionaire martial arts instructors." And I'm like, yeah, but we're all about, you know, like with our industry, all about standards, aren't we? And how big our muscles are and how high we can kick. I don't want to compromise money for standards of money.
Not selling out.
Yeah, selling out, yeah. It's a nah. They got standards, they got money, they got everything. You would not believe it. So I saved up my £2.75 an hour as a lifeguard and my £3 a class teaching my class. I was doing okay. I had 100 students. I mean, my rent was £15 a night twice a week. So it's 30 quid a week for my school hall hire. I flew out to the States and I went to this 3-day convention. And back then, it wasn't this pitch fest that you get going on now. It was 3 days of content that you'd just take down notes and then you go back and implement it. Bear in mind, I was only 17. So the owner of this organisation, it's like a martial arts business organisation. There's over 1,000 people there. He was so impressed to see this 17-year-old, because Americans are different. In England, if you do well, they want to stab you in the back and bring you down. American, they pat you on the back, they want to take you out for dinner. How did you do it? And so on. So he sees this 17-year-old lad turn up. He hears about me using my last money to fly out. He's in his 80s. He's got masses of shares in the Marriott hotels all around the world. He's worth a fortune. And he took me under his wing. He was so impressed with my ambition. And he said, "Go and follow these people around. These are the best in America." So I was getting up at 4 in the morning, going to the staff meetings, going watching them train, how they would look at their stats and so forth, their marketing abilities, how they taught their classes. And he said, "Take it back to England. It might work, it might not. We don't know." I mean, the Americans look at England like a tiny little dot on the map. And some of it worked and some of it didn't. So I was one of the first guys to introduce direct debits in the UK, electronic transfers. It was called standard orders back then. Made it very educational. Put music on the lessons. I got kicked out of my martial arts organisation because of it, because you're not supposed to do that. And now everyone does it now. They all followed me. And I was one of the first to really make it big. And it became the largest martial arts school in the UK. So biggest challenge I had at 17 was, how do I get a landlord to let me have a building? Because as soon as you mention martial arts, karate, taekwondo, they're like, "You're not going to make any money out of that. You know, there's no blueprint from that." And I found this ideal building in a place called Barnstable. And I walked in there and I got laughed out, basically. It's owned by an estate agent. Above it, it's 2 floors. I've still got the building today. And he just said, you're too young. You can't even sign a lease if you wanted to. You're not old enough. And how the hell are you going to make any money out of martial arts? But my mother, she saw what I was doing in this town in Braunton. And by that point, I had everyone on direct debits. I had 100 people paying 49 to 59 a month, making 5 to 6 grand a month, plus gradings, joining fees, merchandise. So she realised that I was onto something, you know. So she was a conveyancing lawyer, real estate lawyer. So she knew this estate agent personally who owned this building. So she called him up and said, listen, I think my son's onto something here. In Braunton, he's making like 5,000 or 6,000 a month, doing 2 nights a week, and his overhead's just £30 a week. Why don't you just give him 6 months free rent, put it on a responsibility on him, let him knock down all the partitions, because it's all offices at the time, to create the dojo, and see what happens. And then the only legal issue we had there was I couldn't sign the lease. So my girlfriend was 19, I was 17. I changed her name to Fiddes. She signed the name by default. And we're on good terms. She's come to one of my mentoring events recently. And she signed the lease and we went in there and I freaking smashed it. I remember on New Year's Eve, so I wanted to do the big January open. And so I had free rent from January to end of June. I was on New Year's Eve, and it's right on the square in Barnstable, right in the front, where everyone's cheering, seeing New Year in, fireworks going off, and I'm painting, thinking, what am I doing? But that's the secret. You observe the masses, do the opposite. 6 months later, 700 members, £1 million a year, one location, 80,000 a month, £220 a month. My rent was done. You know, it was like living the dream, and it was. Yeah, incredible income. I did that 5 times, and then my mind was blocked at that point because the next town was 40 miles away, and it took Michael Jackson to shake it out of me to turn it into a franchise and to go mad with it and go global with it. So he taught me how to build a brand, basically.
With that, did you find almost any challenges with suddenly you're like 17, 18 years old and suddenly you're making $1.5 million a year? Like,
yeah, everyone hated me.
Well, you're going to have that, everyone hates you. B, you've got like more money than you've ever fucking known what to do with, where like 6 to 12 months ago you can afford to feed yourself, essentially. Do you find that warped your mind a little bit?
I did find it warped my mind, but I felt everyone was unfair to me. So before the Michael Jackson era, where I met him, I was already a multi-millionaire. So bear in mind, I'm not from this town. I've moved to this town. I'm 18. I just bought myself a Ferrari 355 Spider. I was in incredible shape back then. I don't need the muscles like I had back then. And I had long hair, permed, roof down, in the winter. Baby oil. I mean, we've all done it. I'm sure you've done it as well. Abs out, pecs out. Driving around in this town and wondering why everyone hates me. Well, not everyone hates me, but they don't understand me, you know.
Polarizing.
And then your best mates are the most famous people in the world, and you're in this town that you're not from. So back then, it was like forums on the internet, graffiti on the walls, like kill Matt Fiddes and stuff. And I took it quite personally. I think the problem I didn't know any different. I'm privileged enough that I had that period where it was literally a year of bedsits and poverty and not being able to afford and counting the pennies. Then I went into this mega wealth, and I've not known any different since. It's just been mansions and whatever I want, I can afford. I've always been able to afford stuff. So those memories from 27 years ago are very vague. And my ex-girlfriend recently came to my event. She reminded me of how painful it was. It was pretty insane. But when your back's up against the wall, everyone's staring at you, and the bullies are thinking, he's not going to make it. And the careers advisor tells you in school, you martial arts, you're not going to be able to do that. Go over there and become an electrician, or go be a PE teacher over there. And you're like, screw you, you know. I went back there anyway 2 years later in my Ferrari and asked to see her. She called Mrs. Godfrey, if you're watching, I love you very much. And she came out and, she cried. She gave me a hug. She got it wrong. She can't understand it. Because the way she's been conditioned is should never been able to happen.
But I also think that's where like entrepreneurship's a beautiful thing. It's like you live by the sword, you die by the sword. And if you're like willing to back yourself, you can change your entire life. And you were willing to suffer and struggle for 6 months in the bedsit and then get it to work, and had an awesome team in terms of your ex-girlfriend and your mum who helped you, because probably without those two you probably wouldn't be where you are now.
And the books I read too, like the first ever book I read was Unleash the Power Within by Tony Robbins. Then I went on to the Awaken the Giant Within. I absorbed everything with him, this personal power kit. Oddly enough, he talks about Michael Jackson in that, about how he got the biggest branding deal of all time from Pepsi Cola. So I was consuming all the right things, and I was watching what the American people were in my network. They come to me for advice now because they're in their 60s now. I'm 44, so the guys I used to visit and study now come to me to study what I'm doing, because everything changes. You've got to be evolving in this industry. You can't, things that worked 27 years ago don't work today. Things that worked before the pandemic don't work now. Everything's changed, the whole platform. And that's my job as a franchisor, as a mentor, to always be looking for those latest trends and things out there. So my network now, I've always understood the value. So the people I hang out with, I select very carefully. And because whoever you hang around with, you're going to become. That's basically it. The 5 people you hang around with and the books and content you consume is who you're going to become.
I couldn't agree with that more. One thing I think is interesting to ask is in terms of you run martial arts schools, do you think all men should be able to fight and defend themselves?
Yeah, I think everyone, not just men, I think women too. I think children, martial arts should be taught in schools. Self-defense, then combat bullying and online bullying and so forth. Because there's an element of truth that, with me, if I hadn't been bullied at school, I would never have done what I did. Because the only reason I started martial arts because I thought this kid was going to kill me at school. He now works with me. He's my anti-bullying ambassador. We met on national TV for the first time after 32 years. A guy called Anthony Reap. And he, if it weren't for him, none of this would have happened. But we're all going to go through. If you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to be successful, you're all going to get trolls, haters. You're going to be bullied. Like, as we're doing this podcast now, there'll be people talking crap about me on the internet, Twitter and X, whatever it's called, Instagram. So what? That's just life, you know. It takes you a while to understand that. And they're the real publicists. And for the people who are mega successful, I learned to say, I used to moan, this person's talking about me, crap about me, and writing this about, this local newspaper's printing this about, I have not given a parent a refund and it's out of my hands. And then my big superstar friends will say, so what? You got to worry about it when people aren't talking about you. You got to make people talk about you. And why are you worried about that for? That's like majoring in minor things. You know, I'm about to have a big nasty article about me in the New York Times, man. You're worried about a little farmer's weekly newspaper. You know, get a life. Call me when you got real problems. I love you. Bye. And they put the phone down. And it's understanding that these people they're free publicists. So if you want to have content go viral, if you want to become the most well-known person in your niche, you need to create controversy. You need to be out there doing what others don't. And you need those negative comments. I know it's sad the way it is, but if you if I constructed a positive mainstream media story, nothing's going to happen. If I constructed a media story that's negative, that people will hate on, like recently I did one where my wife's brand new Ferrari, a F8 I bought for a yellow Spider.
I actually saw that somewhere and I didn't know
massive.
You at the time. And I don't know why it even made the news.
Third biggest story in the world.
I don't even know why it made the news.
It was mad, yeah. Well, that weekend I was sat at home thinking I want to make media, and we had this storm Isha or something. They keep coming up with these new storms, and trees were coming down and stuff like that. So I sat there, and it's the power of social media. All the media follow my Instagram, right? So I've got to be careful what I post. So I bought for Christmas Day. I bought my wife a yellow Ferrari F8 Spider. And there's quite a few out here, actually. I know.
Yeah, it's a lovely car. I like them.
Yeah, it's one of my favourite Ferraris, definitely. So I bought it for her. I made press. I knew it'd make press. And I wanted it to because it's like, it's great. It gets your brand out there and it shows successful people want to aspire to be like you. You attract the right people. Anyway, this storm came round and I got this beautiful mansion and electric gates, as you can imagine. And I thought, what would really work? I'll tell you what would work. That freaking car got damaged. And they could see something going wrong with that car. People will hate on that story and it will go big. And on the back of this storm. So just by chance, I had electricians changing all the light bulbs to my house that day. And I said to the guys, do you want some publicity? And they had all the logos on the back of it. I said, yeah, what you got in mind? What can you do to get those electric gates non-functional? And he said, no problem, we can make that happen. And they got like a spanner and all the rest of it. It's fine, let's go out in the wind. I said, what are you doing, Matt? So I just, don't show your faces, but get your logos. It's called Berry Electrical, facing the camera. And I had the nanny with the iPhone. I said to my wife, Monique, get in your car. Let's get down there. And quickly back your car up, put the gates against the Ferrari F8, and put your hands in your head like this. And I did the same. A couple of shots, and electricians were there. Boom, that's it. Nothing else. There's no damage to the car or anything. I'll go back in the house, and I put literally the picture of my wife's hand on her heads and the car, the gates against it with electricians and me like this, oh no, type thing, saying, look what's happened. Be careful, everyone. Trees are coming down. It's dangerous out there. My wife's Christmas present, probably £50,000 worth of damage. The electric gates failed. Boom, press go, bang. And it went off. The newspapers picked it up. And I was on stage at an event in London talking, and I got whispered into my ear, your story is a top 3rd story in the world at the moment, trending. It's not even a flipping story. But do you know why it worked? Because people hated on it. Got a gorgeous wife with a Ferrari, £350,000 car, smashed. Yeah, they want to hate on me, don't they? Let's get Matt Fiddes. Let's go for it.
Fuck Matt, yeah.
And he bumping the article up. And that's how it works.
I love that. That's like.
I've done lots of stuff like that.
Do you think that's something you learned from being around Michael and seeing how he manipulated media? Because that's definitely something I will take huge from this conversation. As something when I see something, it's like, how can I manipulate this?
Yeah, I mean, I was a bit extreme, but I've done loads of stuff. Like I work with TV stars when they come off and they're prime, and it's a win-win thing. I got my connection of the world presence profile with my past with Michael and other big names. So it's win-win. I help them out and they help me out, and we do PR stunts. We've done things from pretending to train them, and we literally just met up for 5 minutes, get in the sea and have some shots done, and then control them, put them out to the media network, and creates a controversy. And on the back of that, it monetizes. It sends traffic to my Facebook pages and my Instagram, and I get bookings from parents who want their children to be training with Matt Fiddes, who's linked to all these big names, and they don't want to be the local martial arts person. They want. So I mean, that Ferrari article, I paid for my Ferrari, my wife's car. People hating on it, they're paying for it for me. They don't realise. I actually did a story once as well, because one newspaper called me up and said, can we do a story on how you handle the trolls? So, yeah, sure. I love the trolls. They were my biggest lovers. They paid for my lifestyle. They paid for my Lamborghini Aventador, everything. And they did the story on it, Matt Fiddes thanks trolls. And they went on trolled on the troll story about themselves. And that story went viral, made me a load of money too. But now you've got to understand this concept. So you can use this as social media too. If you just post, it ain't going to work. You need to be controversial. And you need to go against the grain. We mentioned Lauren Tickner earlier on, who's I've messaged her. I've never met her, but I messaged her quite a few times in the UK, and she's got it good. Where you'll see her Instagram post where she'll walk in the little skimpy bikini, incredible shape, into the water. Then she'll get into her content, grabs people's attention in the first 3 seconds, and it's that kind of stuff that's going to go viral. When people scroll in, women and men, they stop, and you've got to be able to have that point. How can you make people stop in this world where you're getting hit with about 40,000 marketing messages a day? How can you stand out? And that's something I've always been good at. And it's the 3 steps to business, isn't it? Number 1 is marketing, number 2 sales, and number 3 is service, what you get to do. Most people just focus on turning up and being a personal trainer or being a martial arts instructor. You've got to be good at getting people in the first place, or you've got no one to service.
It's like the biggest problem people have is obscurity. No one fucking knows who you are.
Yeah.
So they're not going to buy from you. Like, one of the things I think about a lot is that people can't give you their money if they don't know you or they've never heard of you.
Yeah, and why would they do that too? And people say to me, why'd you go to all this effort? And it's called social proof, Charlie. Like if you're looking for you got any children?
Not yet. One day, hopefully.
So when you have kids, right? So or even if you're looking for yourself, if you're going to go and Google and join a gym, and you Google the local gym, and you'll see the local gym, you've got a website, an Instagram, and a Facebook, and a Twitter account, then that's it. And then you Google the next gym, and you see 27 years of media stories and celebrities and A-list Hollywood people, current stars, case studies. Which one are you going to pick? You're going to pick the one with social proof, aren't you? Any day. So when people look at what I do, when they put Matt Fiddes Martial Arts in Google, they will never pick the local karate instructor in the Ledge Centre, because they want their kids to be in safe hands. The guy's been going for nearly 3 decades, leading the industry, working with the biggest stars in the world, advising Kim Kardashian and people like that. And that's who they want their kids with. Why the hell would they want to go with the local nobody who's never even done it? You know, and it's not about how high you can kick. It's not about how good you are. It's not about how big your muscles are. I used to think it was all about all that. It's about having tremendous social proof that you just stand out above everyone else. And I've always understood the value of that. Of keeping relevant and making sure. I take care of that for my franchisees. They don't want to be doing all that stuff. They don't want to be doing the marketing. They just want to turn up and do what they love to do, which is teaching outstanding classes and so forth. And the same with my clients, for my business mentoring, I literally, anything entrepreneurship and investing, I teach. And I take care of all that for them. I show them, this is what you do. I'm going to mess you around selling course after course. You just do this at the moment, do this, and it works, and invest in this. It's not that difficult to be successful.
Best known beats best.
Yeah.
One thing you mentioned is in terms of investing. Now, I also know you're a big fan of supercars. At what point do you think people should actually indulge in something like that, or they should keep investing in assets like real estate or cryptocurrency? And I don't know if cryptocurrency like Bitcoin is something you're into.
Yeah, good question. So I only invest in things that I've been there and done myself, and I fully understand. I've been buying property since I was 18 because one of my mentors, Yuri Geller, was you have to buy houses. Stop wasting all your money on these Ferraris and buying houses. So I've got the largest property portfolio in the southwest of the UK, which I'm very proud of, and I'm still buying now.
How many units is that?
We got well over 300. We just got 16 more done this year, and these are like, now I'm buying like apartment buildings and stuff. Yeah, it's changed a bit, the landscape. I started off with HMOs, houses and multiple occupancy, but the regulations got so tough on that. I'm turning them to family homes. You can't go wrong with 2-3 bed family homes. You know, they can't build enough land. It's never going to happen. I ain't building any more land. Well, in Dubai they build more land, but nowhere else around the world is happening, especially in the UK. So I'm a big fan of property. So all the other asset classes like gold, I don't know anything about that. I got a friend who's an expert in that, a guy called Rob Moore, who we talked about earlier on. He's a business partner of mine, and he's an expert at that. He's an expert at watches. I know nothing about that. So that's Rob's thing. Now, supercars, I've always had supercars since I was 18. So I get that. And I know which ones go up in value, which ones don't. So when I buy a supercar, I don't just buy it because I want it. I buy it because I know it's a certain model that's going to appreciate in value as long as you service it and take care of it. I'm not just going to blow money. You know, so like the Lamborghini Aventador I've got, it's the last V12 that's ever going to be made. That's fully, you know, functional, not electric, hybrid, and so forth. And it's a convertible. There's not many of them made. Most of them are hardtop. And the colour's right, and so forth. And that car will always go in value. That'll go down in history. And as long as I look after it, it's going to be okay. Plus, it looks amazing. I mean, the Aventadors just look the best, I think, personally. The Ferraris, like the F8, for example. Why did I buy that one? Well, for a start, it's the last Ferrari. It's the tribute to all the Ferraris. The back of it's like the F40, and then got the 355 engine, and it's meant to be the last one if we're going to go electric, like they're trying to do hybrid in 2030. So that's always going to go up in value. So I don't just blow it, you know, like 355. That's always going to be okay. You know, if you look at F40s, for instance, when only 10, 15 years ago, you could buy them for £500,000. Now they're selling for 2.2 million. And so I only invest in stuff that I fully understand. So I understand real estate really well. I understand supercars really well. And my only other investment I would really do is my own business, because that's my biggest return. My franchises have got an 85% profit rate. It's just an empty room. We don't need gym equipment. We don't need nothing. And I built my business, interestingly enough, from selling it to people like yourself, where I realised there was a niche of personal trainers that were struggling, and I've all dabbled in martial arts before, or boxing or something like that, kickboxing, and I would get them taught, turn them around quick, teach them the business elements, and they'd bolt this onto their gym or their PT business. So all my top franchises are former personal trainers. That's my market. I don't sell to martial artists. They can't get round their black belt eyes, their thinking.
With the Ferrari F8 Spider, interestingly, that's something I was like looking at getting, but I'm too reluctant in terms of I keep putting all my assets into like real estate and crypto, thinking like it's a depreciating asset in terms of buying a supercar. What's the best supercar someone could go and buy in 2024 that you think will be an appreciating asset?
All cars at the moment are dropping in value. They're all dropping down. But the best ones you can get, it's all about the supply and demand. Like obviously F40 is always going to be okay. The classics, the 355s, the Porsches from back then, if you look at them in history, as long as you hold them and look after it, it's all going to be okay. Do you know, I compare it to like the lockdown where we had these awful haircuts. I don't know if you had it in Dubai where your wife tacks your hair.
No, I was in the UK then, but I ended up having long hair and then I shaved my head and then...
Oh man, I just told my wife to shave my head in the end. It was just horrendous. With classic cars, supercars and real estate property, as long as you hold it for long enough, it's like a bad haircut. It'll always be okay in the end. It'll grow out. You can't go wrong. So all the houses I bought when I was 18, they're worth like...
So you think if you buy a supercar and you just hold it for 10, 15 years, it'll keep going up?
It's not going to die. No, it's going to be... If you're going to buy a supercar that's been like thousands and thousands of them made, then that's going to be an issue. Like if you buy a watch, you're going to buy a limited edition where there's only so many that have been made.
Or a specific model of a Ferrari or Lamborghini.
Exactly, yeah. Like the F8, there's not many of them been made. The Lamborghini Aventador that's convertible, there's not many of them been made, especially in the UK that are around. You can buy loads of hardtops Aventadors, but you can't buy many of mine. It's hard to find it. I had to really find it hard. So you're going to be okay. I mean, that car will be worth £500,000-600,000 3 or 4, 5 years down the line. I mean, they're going up in value. The 355, that was what, 37,000? What's that worth now? 180k? You know, and again, you don't buy an automatic, buy a manual, because people like that. Why the hell do you want a hardtop? Get a convertible. Look for the ones that
most unique.
Yeah, most unique. Yeah, there's plenty of 355s out there available. People trying to sell me at the moment for 70, 80 grand that are hardtop automatic, but nobody wants that. They want the old style manual, the stick, and the roof that comes down. But the F8, I love that car. It's probably
I think
the
it's
most comfortable
beautiful
one.
It's the most beautiful Ferrari. And what's funny of this, I've never really spoken about this before on camera. My dad used to like have two Ferraris. He had a Ferrari Daytona in red and a Ferrari Dino in black. And I think he had like the only Dino in black that was like right-hand drive of like, there was like very few of them left. That was like Spider.
They're worth a fortune now.
So this is where he fucked up. So when they moved to Spain in 2008, I think he sold it for like 80 grand back then.
Dear me.
Like 3 years later, it was worth like 400.
Yeah.
And I said to him at the time, I was like, why don't you just keep it and put it in storage? And he didn't want that.
£1 million cars now.
Is it $1 million?
Easily, yeah, for a Dino, definitely.
I'll send him that clip.
Yeah, I can think about the F8 too. The funny thing about that Ferrari story, going back to Etchegate, people don't realise and sit down and think, my wife's in the car, it's a convertible, all she had to do is press a button, and the roof comes down, she would have stepped out. So people they don't think. Now the Lamborghini is very different. You got.
They're awkward.
It's a flat trying to get the roof off, man. You got to take it off and put it in the boot and stuff. But yeah, asset class, you got to understand. You can't. I would never invest in crypto because I don't get it. To me, that's like gambling. I wouldn't invest in that. I wouldn't invest in gold. I don't get it. I don't understand it. Stocks and shares, I would not touch it. To me, that's like gambling. Nothing safest houses, they say. And for me, that's never gone wrong. I understand it. I know good areas where to buy, and it's important for me. I'll always keep buying property.
Do you think that going on that preface that best known beats best in terms of getting more attention, that things like Lamborghinis, Ferraris, supercars, like if you look at someone, I don't know if you've heard of a guy called Wes Watson, who's also been on the podcast, blowing up. His business does like 3 million a month, mainly because he has so much viral traffic because he's got about $30 million of supercars. Do you think that's a good approach to pull audiences in? Got
to be honest, right? Whenever I do content in my Lamborghini, especially in the Aventador, or my Instagram, or it blows up. It gets people's attention. It stops them scrolling. They just love supercars. And you see people do it with private jets and so forth, helicopters. I think the danger you got is there's been a lot of influencers out there who fake it till you make it people, who have not really done it, who are trying to be famous in a niche, but they've never done it themselves. And they're hiring jets for an hour, and they're hiring a Lamborghini for a day. And they're putting it out, and people buying into these masterminds and courses, and then realise later on, after they wasted all their money, the person's never done it before. I got a client who spent 151,000 on mentoring. Now she's a single mum with 2 kids living in a caravan, and she spent 5 grand with me. And you don't need a course for this, a course for that, a course for this, a course for this. I just do one-stop shop. I showed them how to make 6-7 figures, turning their passion into profession, doing something they love, otherwise you're not going to put the hours in, and then investing in the asset class, which I understand, property. Not rent to rent, not service accommodation, not Airbnb, because all the regulations are going to be creeping up on that soon. Just single, 2, 3 bedroom homes that are going to be around forever, but then build up to apartment blocks. That's it. Keep it simple. People always going to need a roof over their head. And people always talk turnover too. Like turnover is vanity, profit, sanity. It's not hard to make 10 grand a month, 20 grand a month in something you love to do. It's not that difficult to do. And that's the important thing. So find your hobby. What's your interest? What do you want to do? What do you want to monetize? And then take it online. And then protect yourself about its future. Because I do think, honestly, there will be future lockdowns, pandemics, global warming, because too many billions were made from big corporations in that period of time for it not to happen again. And it's our duty to leave generational wealth for our kids to be okay for money.
The last thing I want to ask you on that is that I think there's going to be a big shift in the entire world because of AI and technology, where there's going to be mass unemployment. So in my opinion, I'm really pushing in terms of getting myself to the point where I'm unbreakable and have like complete financial safety. What's your opinion in terms of what you think might happen, say, by 2030?
Right. So I spoke about this a couple of years ago at an event, and people laughed at me. They didn't take me seriously. But we got this whole metaverse thing going. With Meta, it's become a thing now, with the glasses coming on, and and you could do Facebook Lives and so on. Eventually, what's going to happen? And Mark Zuckerberg, who owns Meta, has already put videos out, and people aren't taking it serious. He's showing him fencing, sword fighting with another person in a virtual world. And not only are you seeing it, you're actually feeling it when the sword, you're getting a vibration on your hand. So what I envision what's going to happen, if you look at my sector, is you're going to have to put some glasses on, and attend your martial arts class with virtually in your living room, and you're going to get the feeling like you're there. You're going to kick pads and get the vibrations and be able to spar against people. And when you finish your workout, take the glasses off and off you go. Now that's, to me, that's bad because you're not really getting that social engagement. And the good side to that is that if you've got a dying relative in hospital in South Africa, you can put your glasses on. Granny can put her glasses on in South Africa. You can sit next to her, talk to her. She'll think like you're there. You'll think like you're there. God knows what that's going to do to you psychologically when you come out. But he's already got this technology coming out. So I did this conference and I said, the biggest threat to the martial arts fitness world at the minute is this virtual 100%. Metaverse. 100%. Wake up, everyone. Get ready. Get your money sorted out. Because if you don't get it sorted out, there'll always be an element of face-to-face and stuff, but it's going to wipe out people, AI and so forth. In your sector, I imagine you could just type in, I want to look like this and have this diet plan and have this training plan. AI can construct it. Can they?
Oh, you straight away go and ChatGPT and write me a fat loss diet for 2,000 calories. This is my age. This is how much I weigh. But if this is where it's getting more about personal touch in terms of like people buying into coaches or people buying into the martial arts instructors, because that's what's going to keep people coming.
Yeah, and your job is to be the pioneer, to bring the latest technology and threats to your industry, to your clients, and that's my job too, to my clients, to my franchisees. I feel this is going to be a threat. We either embrace it and go with it, or it's going to be a problem for us in the future. So they look at me as a franchisor to be scanning. But I think the metaverse and AI is our biggest threat to destroy the sectors as we know it. We need to move with that and be prepared and be an early adopter. Anybody who's an early adopter in anything, first people on Instagram, Kim Kardashian and people like that, smashed it. First people on Facebook, smashed it. You know, we recently, we had this big burst in the UK where Fiddes came out on Instagram. We thought it was going to be a big thing. We jumped on it, didn't work. Clubhouse, the lockdown was huge, 100%. Massive. And it just died. They messed it up. But anyone's an early adopter in anything is important, and that's my job as an entrepreneur, to bring my clients, my franchisees that, and look out for those threats. But I do think the metaverse is going to be huge.
One thing I always like to ask every guest is, what is the best piece of advice you could give me?
Surround yourself with people that have already achieved or better than what you want to become. Be careful who your friends are. You will pick up their accents, their mannerisms, the way they think. I'm not saying go and sack off all your friends. Be careful who you network with. Be around elite people who've been there and done it. Do your due diligence and make sure this person has been there and done it. And just don't, there's a lot of fake it till you make it. So I can't stress that enough, especially since the pandemic. Like online gurus have never been there before. Make sure the person's done it. You know, it's okay to ask for their bank account statements, their profit and loss. And if they can't give that to you, then there's something wrong. You know, the amount of people I know, even in my sector, martial arts, who've never had any success, who set up martial arts masterminds, 50 grand a year, 250,000 a year, 500,000, they never even earned 500,000 a year themselves. But they're talking turnovers as well, which is nonsense. What do you want to turn over? It's all about what you take home. We didn't have that when I started off. We go to a 3-day event, and it was all genuine and authentic. You've got to be true to yourself. So be careful where you take your advice from, do due diligence, and set goals and just dream big. Anything's possible.
Love that. Where's the best place for people to find out more about you, Matt?
Best place to go to, just go to the website. It's got all my Instagrams on there. Go to www.mf.club, mf.club in Google, Internet Explorer, and then follow me on Instagram, official Matt Fiddes. I answer all my DMs. Anyone's got any questions and stuff, I'm very accessible. You don't get a robot, AI or VAs. And yeah, I'm here to help people. I'm from your sector, I was PT myself once. So.
Big thank you. If you guys think I should buy a Ferrari F8 in yellow, comment below, because it's on the cards and something I've been thinking about for a while. I actually really liked it. And if you enjoyed the podcast, make sure you subscribe, hit the like button and share this with a friend. And we'll see you next episode soon. That's great, dude. Thank you.
Smashed it.
That was really, really good. I could have gone for hours.